Hey everyone, how's it going? We're gonna try to go ahead and jump into the stream. Let me know if you guys can hear me. How's everyone doing? It looks like the price is still moving up in the short term. Let me know if you guys have any questions. We'll try to cover them during the show. Um, yeah, so I mean, um, so yeah, the price has continued to rally here a little bit. So it's at 12.8, which note is higher than where we were. And by the way, I am still sick, so forgive me. My voice sounds weird. Um, so we are higher now than we were a few weeks ago, and the highest point we reached was at around 12.5. So far, the price for Bitcoin has rallied all the way up to around 12.9. Now it's back at 12.8. But again, this is, I mean, it's still. We'll see if we hold it, right? We'll see if we hold it. There's a good chance we come back down. But if we don't, if we continue to rally on up, um, then just remember the risk levels. Remember the strategy, right, of trying to take profits. Now again, if you prefer to just hold for forever, or say hold for 3 years or so, that's completely fine too. But if you are trying to take advantage of shorter term bubbles, then you could follow some type of strategy like that. But again, this is not financial advice. So let's just take a quick look at the market. Price of Bitcoin is at 12,770. Ethereum is at 394, 395, somewhere in that area. The Ethereum Bitcoin ratio is at 0.0309, which by the way is 25% down from its local top. Okay. Now, one of the things we had mentioned about the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio, and I still think it stands, or there's a good chance it'll happen, is a theoretical goodbye of Ethereum in December, right? And I don't know if it's going to happen or not. We're still 40 days away. In the short term, at least, Ethereum has taken a pretty big hammering against Bitcoin. If we look at this trend line I drew like 8 months ago, these two trend lines kind of going up like this. So you can see we've been in them for the duration of the year so far. I haven't touched them. The only time we exited it was right here. We exited it for a couple of weeks or so. And the contention, right, is that we would spend a decent amount of time between this reaccumulation range, right, and it was between point 0.028 and 0.042 is generally speaking where I would think that the price of Ethereum against Bitcoin would spend a decent amount of its time. Um, so I'm just looking at the chat. So if we were, I mean, I'm still gonna leave this trend line up. If we were to redraw a trend line, I'll delete this one. But if we just took one a little bit further down to basically hit where it actually hit down here, and moved it up, all the way up to try to give you like a tolerance band, right, between maybe where it's going to be, then you can see that it actually does correspond more or less to that ratio at the bottom. But again, I still will just leave the main one up because I think this is the one that is the most worthwhile. But what we're looking for is still to see, okay, in December, will there be another timely Ethereum buy with Bitcoin or not, right? It might not present itself. It might. There's always a chance. that it rebounds now, right? There's a chance that it rebounds now, and then by December it comes back down. I mean, this is always a possibility too. So if we look on the current time scale, or the weekly chart, Bitcoin is now, if we go from the 20 week, it's now approximately 21% higher than the 20-week moving average. So what this means is that if Bitcoin starts moving sideways at this level, which, I mean, might be hard for it to do given how quickly it's popped up, but if it starts moving sideways, then it could become an altcoin paradise, right? So the Bitcoin's like 20% above its 20-week moving average. If it starts moving sideways, right, or something like that, then it could become an altcoin paradise. Note that if the price comes back down, let's say it comes back down to like 1,200 or 12,000 or something, 12.5, altcoins will probably bleed immediately against USD and against Bitcoin. But if it then starts moving sideways at that level, so at like 12.3 or something, if it starts moving sideways, in this regime, then I think a lot of these altcoins would actually recover and start doing quite well if Bitcoin can move sideways, because these rallies that Bitcoin goes on when it goes up can be quite explosive, right? And it's a lot of times you definitely want to be holding Bitcoin during these times, right? It can be really explosive. And then when it immediately retraces, whenever the correction does come, a lot of coins will, in the short term, bleed because Bitcoin's bleeding. But then, if it holds the level at some point and starts moving sideways, then I would consider that to be, like an altcoin paradise, right? And here's another one, altcoin paradise. So, in the same manner, where we currently are, you can see, this is yet another rally. We've come back up. And if we start moving sideways again, it can become another altcoin paradise, right? Where a lot of altcoins remain very, very bullish, and it's just business as usual, right? So, I mean, we'll watch Ethereum too, because Ethereum looks like it's close to breaking 400. I mean, it already did break it. It briefly went above 400. It went to like 401, but that was just more or less a wick. So we'll see if it breaks 400 and can sustain it. ADA is doing pretty well, actually. It's currently at almost 11 cents, at 0.1078. So it's getting close to 11 cents. So a lot of these coins now are they are slowly moving up. And if Bitcoin were to start moving sideways, then I think it would become another altcoin mania phase. I mean, I don't know if mania is the right word, but just, appreciation of altcoins if that were to occur, because we are fairly significantly above the 20 week. And one of the nice things about being this far above the 20 week, right? Like one question that I get, right, is, well, if you do buy altcoins at this point before it starts moving sideways, you are taking on risk, right? I mean, you are taking on risk. And you have to remember that there is no such thing as a free lunch, right? There is no such thing as a free lunch. If you want to potentially, reap those rewards, then you have to take the risk. And you can be conservative and wait for Bitcoin to start moving sideways, right? You could, one approach would be to wait for it to start moving sideways. And then to hope that those altcoins that you bought start to rally themselves, right? So whether it be ADA or Chainlink, Monero, whatever the coin is, Polkadot, we've talked about Uniswap governance token some, we've talked about a few other coins. Whatever it happens to be, the idea is that you would hope that Bitcoin moves sideways, because if it doesn't, if Bitcoin continues this amazing rally, then for the most part, Bitcoin would still be where you would want to be. Sorry, I just got like a bazillion notifications. So I'm just trying to see what's going on. Okay. So if Bitcoin continues the rally to 14K, then of course Bitcoin is where primarily you want to be. And this is the reason why, as I've said, Bitcoin will now and always be the majority holding of my cryptocurrency portfolio. I sell some of it occasionally, right? We sell some of it to Ethereum, sometimes to some altcoins, sometimes to USD, but it doesn't change the fact that it is the primary holding because you see what happens when it starts to move. And we've said this before, the rest of the market will sit and watch, right? And for the most part, over the last 2 months, the market has sat back and watched Bitcoin make this incredible move. And during that time, a lot of altcoins have actually lost value, and especially have lost value against Bitcoin. Not all of them, but a lot of them have. So if you buy altcoins now, the best case scenario for you would be if Bitcoin were to go sideways. Okay, if Bitcoin goes sideways at this level, at such a bullish level above the 20-week moving average, this would be what I would think would be like the best case scenario for people that are speculating on altcoins. Now, if it goes down, does it mean that your potential altcoin purchase was a bad one? Well, I mean, even if Bitcoin corrects, we know that altcoins will likely correct with it, right? Even though altcoins didn't rally as much as Bitcoin, we understand that altcoins would likely correct even in that situation, right? It isn't fair. Life isn't fair. Build a bridge and get over it, right? Just build that bridge. Let's get over it together. Now, the nice thing, though, is if Bitcoin does come back down, if Bitcoin does retrace back down to, say, 12K, let's say it retraces to the new local low, or this prior local top, right? If it retraces to 12K and then starts moving sideways at that level, this is still great for altcoins, right? I mean, they might bleed in the immediate term, right, over the next day or two. If, for instance, if Bitcoin were to go back to 12,000, there's a good chance that Ethereum would easily drop back down to 370, 380, right? This is a good chance this would happen if Bitcoin were to drop back down to 12,000. But the nice thing, the key thing, is that if Bitcoin drops down to this level and then moves sideways at this level, then the bulls are going to be coming out most likely for coins like Ethereum, because we recognize that Bitcoin even at 12K would still be 11% above the 20-week moving average, and historically speaking, the 20-week moving average is our bull market trend line, right? This is the level that Bitcoin needs to hold for the bull market to essentially stay in effect, right? This is where we held support several times during the last market cycle. Now, the thinking, one of the things we've said is there's always a good chance that Bitcoin tests the 20-week moving average. In fact, we looked at the pattern of the last cycle and said if it continues, right, then we will come down and test the 20-week moving average, right? We will come back down and test it at some point, right? And I don't know exactly where it would be, but if that same pattern were to hold, then we would come back down. But as there's always a chance that the same pattern doesn't repeat, and you don't typically trade these patterns, right? I mean, I stick to the risk levels that I talk about on the channel. I stick to these, and we can speculate at what might happen. We speculated down here that we would see a slow, methodical move back up to 12K that would take longer than this move, and it did. Now it is quickly moved above this prior local top at 12K, moved past the wick here at 12.5. Now it's at 12.8. Where is it going to go? I don't know. I mean, it could easily rally up. It could come back down and correct down. But the nice thing, as I said, is even if it does correct back down, let's suppose that we see a 10% correction, right? It would still be at 11.5, which is still $1,000 above the 20-week moving average. Okay, a 5% correction would put it at $12,000. Okay, so every single time, if you're thinking about altcoins, right? When we talked about altcoins down here, it's super bearish for altcoins, because even on days like this when it rallies, it can take a minute for it to just come right back down. The very next week, the price can come right back down, and these altcoins will continue to bleed against Bitcoin. Okay, then it comes back up, it's still too close to the 20-week. It rallies more. All right, this is where you want to be. Bitcoin's where you want to be. It keeps coming up. Bitcoin's still where you want to be, right? This is where I would want the majority of my portfolio right now would be in Bitcoin, and this is pretty much all the time. Like as long as Bitcoin volatility is this high, it's good to focus on Bitcoin, because if it comes down or if it goes up, then you'd rather be in Bitcoin. But you could at least make the argument, right? You can make the argument now that if there's some altcoins that you're especially attracted to, you think that they're going to have a good ROI this market cycle, and you're just wondering when the right time to to move in would be. Well, the contention that I've said right all along is that if you're focusing on Bitcoin down here, then now your Bitcoin is 20 to 25% up. So then instead of having just sat on US dollars for the last 2 months, if you were actually buying Bitcoin and then now you converted it to an altcoin, you could actually get more of that altcoin, like 20 to 25% more, because, well, it depends on what that altcoin did with respect to Bitcoin, but most of them bled, in fact. So you could at least get approximately 20 to 25% more of your choice altcoin because you focused on Bitcoin when it was near the 20-week moving average, and you took that chance and you said, you know what, Bitcoin's close to the 20-week. It's typically not a good time to speculate on altcoins when that happens. What we'll do is, we'll focus on Bitcoin during really bearish times, right? When the friendly neighborhood bears are coming out daily to remind you that they still exist. And you focus on Bitcoin, and then boom, it comes back up. And then now you start to make the case, okay, maybe it is time to look back into altcoins again. Maybe we are getting into that ballpark. Remember, it is a risk. I mean, again, there's a significant risk in doing it. And I mean, I imagine that a lot of people are here because they like taking risk, right? I mean, this is not financial advice, but if you're watching if you're watching, some random person on the internet on YouTube on a Wednesday morning talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum, then probably you're okay with some level of risk, right? You're okay with some level of risk. And what you're wanting to know, right, or what you're trying to figure out is, okay, well, what are these altcoins going to do? And again, it just depends on Bitcoin. Okay, it all hinges on Bitcoin. Ethereum is at 395, 396. ADA is at 10, almost 11 cents. Link just under $11. And so, we watch what Bitcoin does, right? And if you want to be conservative, if you want to be more conservative, like, you want to lean on the conservative end, you want to protect your money as best as you can, then either, and if you don't want to go to stable coins, right? If the idea is you don't want to get out of the market because you think that we're too early in the market for you to exit, and you want to just go to, say, like, if you want to just stay in the market, then of course the most conservative thing to do would just be to stay in Bitcoin, because with this volatility, if Bitcoin moves up quickly or moves down quickly, then again the best place to be would be Bitcoin. But if you do want to take on that a little bit extra risk, recognizing one key thing again, and I'm going to reiterate this a 1,000 times because there's so many people that don't understand, like, that short-term moves are completely unpredictable, right? I think they're completely unpredictable. So you have to recognize, you just have to recognize that if Bitcoin comes back down, in the short term, your choice alt will most likely bleed, okay? It will most likely bleed against Bitcoin and against USD. It will most likely bleed. Maybe not against Bitcoin, but especially against USD it would. Probably against Bitcoin it would. It depends on the altcoin that you get. But it would most likely bleed. And if it goes up, that altcoin, there's a good chance it would likely bleed as well against Bitcoin. Maybe not against USD, but it would probably bleed against Bitcoin. However, if it comes down and it holds a level, let's say that's, maybe 10, 15, maybe like 15% above the 20-week moving average, and it starts just going sideways, then these altcoins can quickly recover and then start moving. This is exactly what has happened in the past with a lot of other coins, right? You wait for Bitcoin you wait for Bitcoin to get to that bullish level above the 20-week. It was similar back in May. We broke the 20-week moving average here during this candle. A lot of altcoins bled against Bitcoin. So let's actually look to make sure I'm not lying to you. April 27th, 2020. Okay, so the week of April 27th. Let's look to see what the hell Ethereum was doing on April 27th, the week of April 27th, 2020. So we'll first look at its USD valuation. So look at what Ethereum was doing April 27th, 2020 for the next 4 weeks. Okay, it was going sideways. Okay, now more importantly, let's look to see what it was doing against Bitcoin, because this is what ultimately matters. Let's go to the week, the April 27th, 2020 week. So we're going to zoom in. We're going to go to April 27th. And what happened? What happened with Ethereum on April 27th? Right? It was bleeding against Bitcoin. And it bled at the bottom of the wick. It bled 21% when, with Bitcoin moving above the 20-week. So I'm not lying to you, right? You go back and look. I don't know where I was. So here, yeah, Bitcoin broke through the 20-week, April 27th, right? And then it was moving sideways in this regime, right? So it had these amazing wicks to the top, but it ultimately was moving sideways in a regime that, again, on average, right, was approximately, 11 to 12% above the 20-week moving average. So with that in mind, what happened? So after a few weeks that Bitcoin was in this new regime, this new bullish regime, what happened, right? So here's April 27th, it bled in the short term, and then it slowly started gaining back, right? So starting May 11th, so a couple weeks later, it gains 21% back on Bitcoin, moved sideways for a few weeks, and then continued the rally to go up 97% at the peak against Bitcoin. Okay, and then at the peak, we kind of saw like a short-term correction, right? And because Bitcoin came back down to the 20-week and tested it, all those and we said every time that Bitcoin tests the 20-week, most likely everything's going to bleed against it. Most everything will bleed, and you can see that it has. I mean, Bitcoin or Ethereum, the Ethereum ratio against Bitcoin went down 25%, and it still went down because even when Bitcoin became bullish, it continued to go down against Bitcoin, because as we said, like if Bitcoin is super volatile in either the upward or downward direction, most coins will bleed against it, even if it's not fair. And so that's what's happened. So we're seeing another dip, just like we did in the past, right? I mean, this dip here of Ethereum against Bitcoin was also accompanied by an explosive move by Bitcoin, because just Ethereum could not keep up when the Bitcoin volatility was that high. But now the point, right, is, well, okay, I mean, after a few weeks, it rallied against Bitcoin, then it moved sideways, and then it rallied again against Bitcoin. The reason it came back down was because Bitcoin tested the 20-week moving average, and the reason it kept getting hammered was because Bitcoin continued to test the 20-week moving average. And then the reason why it continued to get hammered today is because Bitcoin is bullish, but it's too bullish, right? It's too bullish for Ethereum. When Bitcoin becomes too bullish, again, that's where you want to be. Or if it becomes too bearish and you want exposure to crypto, that's where you want to be. So if you're doing something like buying altcoins, buying Ethereum or something, you recognize that if this bullishness continues for Bitcoin and it goes up to 14K, or if it rallies to like 14K or something, then the most likely the path of least resistance for Ethereum against Bitcoin would most likely be down, right? It would most likely be down if Bitcoin were to rally to 14K. If Bitcoin were to go back down to the 20-week moving average, which is currently at, let me switch this over to the weekly time frame. So if it went over, it's currently at around 10,600. So if Bitcoin were to go back to the 20-week, the path of least resistance for Ethereum against Bitcoin, again, would be down. So you have to recognize that. So the most likely path, whether Bitcoin goes up or Bitcoin goes down, for Ethereum is that the Ethereum-Bitcoin ratio is most likely going to go down. But, as I said again, and because there's new people joining, As I said again, if Bitcoin does not test the 20-week in the short term, and it does not go to 14K in the short term, then if it goes sideways, or it has a short-term correction and then goes sideways, then there's a good chance that we see another rally, right? And maybe it comes back up a bit. And so this is the primary the primary thing I want to relay, right? So if you're looking for more risk, then you could look into diversification to some altcoins. If you want to be conservative and you want to protect what you have, you don't want to speculate on altcoins or anything like that, then that's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I mean, a lot of people will do that. And I find that the more wealth that someone is managing, generally speaking, the more risk averse they're going to be, right? I mean, let's say you have $100 million, you don't just want to throw $20 million at a random altcoin you've never heard of, right? You want to protect your $100 million and you want to grow it to $200 million, right? And the best way to do that in terms of risk-adjusted returns would be maybe some Bitcoin and some Ethereum. This is not financial advice. This is just looking at modern portfolio theory and the efficient frontier and recognizing that by adding Ethereum into your portfolio mix, you're increasing your risk-adjusted returns. It's not my opinion. It's what the data says. So, and again, a lot of these, if you're trying to go from an insane number to an insanely higher number, then you want to take on as little risk as possible, right? And by taking on as little risk as possible, that means you're primarily in Bitcoin, and then maybe you also own some Ethereum. And then my contention all along is that at the very least, Link would not be a coin I would want to not hold during this time. And again, it all hinges back on the fact that it's going up exponentially against Bitcoin over the last 2.5 years. There are boom and bust cycles. It's the same story every time. At the top, people say, it's, Link's the best thing since sliced bread. And then at the bottom, people say, this is a scam or whatever, it might be. But, it's just the trend, right? It's just the trend. And you get accustomed to the trend, or you don't, and you buy up here and you sell down here, and you buy up here and you sell down here. So just, I would say, get accustomed to that trend. And this is why I say Link is one I could not afford not to hold, or I would not want to risk not holding, because I think it's gone up 100x since against Bitcoin over the last 2.5 years. And if we take that measured move and show you from the bottom against Bitcoin, you can see at the top it went up like 16,000%. Currently, it's up a modest 8,300% against Bitcoin. A modest 8,300%. I know for some of you that's not even enough to get out of bed in the morning, but just recognize that it is a pretty good trend that it's worth being a part of. I will remind you that if you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. We have 1,000 people watching and only 200 likes. So let's try to get that up to 500 likes, and we'll see if we can make it there. So let me look back. Okay, so again, to summarize, right? To summarize this annoyingly long rant that I've gone on, right? To summarize it, for those who are sick of me saying it, if Bitcoin goes up in the short term, quickly to let's say it goes up to 13.5, 14K or something, most alts will bleed, right? So in that scenario, you want to hold mostly Bitcoin. If it goes down in the short term, most alts will bleed. So in that scenario, you would want to hold mostly Bitcoin. And if it goes down to the 20-week, which is a long shot away now, which is why it gives more credence to the idea of at least looking into some altcoins. It's 17, 18% away. If it goes down to that level, then, you can rest assured that most alts will bleed against Bitcoin. So again, the speculation, to summarize, is that if you want to take on more risk and you're okay with taking on more risk, recognizing that it could be, in the short term, it might not work out. If Bitcoin stays super volatile, then you could make that risk. But that has to be according to you. It has to be into a coin that you think is worthwhile. But at the end of the day, I will stand by my statement in that it is my opinion that at least for me, that I should always hold a majority of my portfolio in Bitcoin, and that yes, I sometimes sell some Bitcoin, or I'm not buying Bitcoin if the risk is too high. Sometimes that's the case, but at the end of the day, the main focus is Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin goes up, the market's doing well. Okay, if the market's doing well, if the total market cap of cryptocurrency is going up, and you're watching it, let's say you could see a snapshot in the future, and you could look at the let's say you could look at the total cryptocurrency market cap in, say, 1 year. Okay, and let's suppose that in 1 year you saw the total market capitalization was at, let's say, 1.5 trillion. Let's just suppose that in 1 year the total cryptocurrency market cap is at 1.5 trillion or something, right? If that's the case, then we can be like 99.99% sure that Bitcoin did well during that year, right? We can be almost certain that Bitcoin did well if the market capitalization is at 1.5 trillion. However, you cannot make the same claim for any other coin out there. There's a good chance that whatever random coin you chose either did not perform, or maybe it did perform, but it was outperformed by Bitcoin. Okay, so this is the contention. I do think that if the market cap of 1.5 trillion, I think that Ethereum would be doing quite well too. I think that Link would be doing remarkably well too. I think ADA would be doing really well too. But you want to if you want to gamble on a random altcoin in the top 1,000, there's a really good chance that coin did not do well. Okay, and it's all about opportunity cost. For every dollar in a random altcoin that you've never heard of, it's a dollar not in something else, and it's all about opportunity cost and trying to find the coins with the best risk adjusted returns. And by the way, don't forget, with Link, one of the reasons we hold it is not just because the price goes up. I mean, sure, the price going up is a hell of a good reason to hold it, but the other reason is that it tends to not move in tandem with Bitcoin. It does not move in tandem with Bitcoin, historically speaking. Because of that, it improves your covariance matrix when calculating your risk-adjusted returns. So then, what does that mean? Well, it means on a bad day for Bitcoin, there's a good chance that the Link volatility is actually to the upside, and it's canceling out some of the negative Bitcoin volatility, and vice versa. On days where Bitcoin is doing well, Link, on the other hand, is not always doing well. And of course, on any given day, right, like yesterday was a great example of that. Bitcoin was doing well, Link wasn't doing well. If you take it over the entire 2.5 years, then it improves your covariance matrix, and it increases your risk-adjusted returns, and gives you a portfolio on the efficient frontier by including a percentage of Link in your portfolio. And that's just simple quantitative finance, modern portfolio theory. So if you don't like that, then don't take it up with me. Take it up with quantitative finance or data science, right? Take it up with that, and you go argue with that, because there's no reason to argue about it. I mean, that's just what the data says. So with that said, let me know if you guys have any questions. Make sure, if you guys are enjoying the content, please subscribe to the channel. Maybe with this new volatility in the market, it is possible to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So let's try to get there. Please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, turn on the alert icon, blah, blah, blah. Stuff I have to say to help with the YouTube algorithms, which is somewhat annoying, but that's just the game we have to play. So if you guys have any questions, let me know what they are. I'll try to get to them. And I will remind you that if you guys do like the content and you want access to the premium list, you can check out intothecryptoverse.com. You get access to a weekly premium video. By the way, you get access to all the prior videos too, and there's probably like 20 of them or something like that. And you also get access to all the weekly reports, the private Telegram alerts channel, the private Telegram chat room, and the risk dashboard and the dynamic DCA selling strat dashboard. So check it out, intothecryptoverse.com, if you guys want access to the premium content. But again, I talk about my premium list. I don't run ads on. I know some people don't like it when I talk about it, but remember, I don't run AdSense. So when you're watching this channel, you never have to watch an ad before viewing the video, and I don't do any in-video paid promotions, right? I've never been paid to talk about any coin or any exchange or anything like that on this channel. It's just my brutal, honest opinion. So therefore, the way I'm trying to monetize it is just through the premium list, where I just try to go above and beyond what I'm doing on the public channel. So again, if you guys want that, check it out, intothecryptoverse.com. If not, then that's completely fine. I'm happy to chat with you here. We'll follow the markets. It's an exciting time. Ethereum's at 395. Let's just, before we get into the questions, let's take one more snapshot here. So Bitcoin's at 12,789. Ethereum's at 395. The Ethereum Bitcoin ratio is flirting with 0.031. So we'll see. It has come down. It has come back up a little bit from the absolute or the local bottom. So the local bottom was all the way down here at 0.0303. So it has come up approximately 2% since then. Nothing to write home about, of course. We have ADA at 10.7 cents, Monero at 125, Link at around $11. And the only reason XRP Bitcoin is up is because someone was asking about it yesterday. And by the way, when they asked about it yesterday, my opinion on this is not going to change. So just to go ahead and curtail any of the questions I will get in the chat on this, I just want to remind you, if you have a question about XRP and what, what about XRP, blah, whatever it is, my contention yesterday, last week, 2 weeks ago, 4 months ago, 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 2 years ago, has been that I am sick, has been that the XRP Bitcoin ratio will likely bleed until Bitcoin gets to its prior all-time high. And yesterday it was slightly higher than it is today. But over the macro scale, it will likely bleed until Bitcoin gets to the prior all-time high. And this is just most likely what will happen. So, if you see it dipping down into this regime down here, then it becomes a different story. But as far as it is now, I think the opportunity cost is too high. Hopefully I'm not losing my voice. All right, with all that said, let's... Oh, and by the way, I did want to say one other thing. We do have the public Telegram channel if you guys want to join it. So I'll put that in the comments as well. Sorry, I'm trying to look at some of the comments. Let me just try to popcorn some of them, or let's see. Can Bitcoin go back to the 20-week? Of course, anytime during the cycle, it can go back to the 20-week. Even in a bull market, it can always go back to the 20-week. Thoughts on Bitcoin Cash? I don't own BCH, and I have no intention of covering it on the channel. What is your opinion on VeChain? I think it's risky for sure. I think it probably will do well this market cycle if Bitcoin, if Bitcoin does go to 100K. I don't know that it would be necessarily the highest ROI. I mean, I would prefer Link or something over VeChain. But I mean, with that said, there's a good chance it would do well in a bull market. Someone says, what about the fractal? I'm not sure which fractal. I mean, maybe you're talking about the one where if you compare it to the last cycle, it would retest the 20-week. There's still a chance it does those, but as we said in the last video, It doesn't have to necessarily repeat exactly. I mean, it repeated this move. This move was the same, right? From this point up here down to the bottom, a slower move back up to the local top. If it continues to repeat, it would mean a retest of the 20-week moving average, right, over the next few weeks. But again, it doesn't necessarily have to repeat, and none of these patterns are anything I would trade by. It's just speculation. I just stick to the risk levels, generally speaking. What's your opinion on Polkadot? I think Polkadot is Polkadot is a coin that I do cover on the channel. I have like one video on it. I do cover it sometimes in live streams. I just don't talk about it that much because I try to focus it on a data science perspective, and there's just not a lot of data on it. But it is one that I think will be an important role in this market cycle. Someone says, "Hey Ben, love your DCA strategy, but in my country you pay at least 25% taxes of all gains if you exchange crypto within a year. How would you act within these rule set?" So there's a lot of different things with taxes, right? It depends on what your income level is. It depends on whether you've been holding it for the short term or the long term, and it depends on the country. So I mean, there's ways around it, right? I mean, if you want to trade it in like a Roth, then you can actually trade it tax free. The downside of that being there's limitations on how much you can put in a Roth in any given year. But you can, I mean, there's certain tickers you can trade like GBTC, the Grayscale Bitcoin Fund. So there are ways around it if you're looking to completely remove like taxes. It depends on what country you're in, right? That's why I don't talk about taxes because it really depends on where you live, your income level, and how long you've been holding that asset. So I would say that if you're very hands off to the market, and you really have no interest in trading any short-term bubbles or anything, then what I would say, if cycles are lengthening, right, which this is the thesis on the channel, is if cycles are lengthening and that the next peak at the earliest would be the end of 2022, I think it'll be the middle of 2023. But if at the earliest, let's say you think that it's going to be, say, the beginning of 2023, and you want to avoid short-term capital gains, well, then you want to stop buying crypto a year before that, so that if you do sell it near the peak of the next market cycle, then you can pay long-term capital gains. Because the idea, right, is if you hold for at least a year in a lot of countries, your tax rate goes down significantly. But again, it depends on where you live. Some countries have it where it doesn't matter. I mean, some countries have it where you pay little, like very little on it if you hold it, depending on how long you hold it. So if you're more hands off and you really don't care about playing in the sandbox down here, right? You don't care about these little bunny hills that we're seeing, and what you want to see is these major moves like that, right? Then I would say you wanna try to do enough research into the market to figure out when do you think the peak will be. Do you think the peak? I mean, if you buy a lot of the 4-year cycle stuff, do you think that the peak will be the end of 2021? Because if you do, and you're wanting to avoid short-term capital gains tax, then you would want to stop buying Bitcoin relatively soon, so that in a year you can just pay short-term capital gains. If on the other hand you think that, so I mean, if it were the 4-year cycle theory, right, it would basically just go like this. And so you would want to be not buying too much longer so that you can avoid paying short-term capital gains up here if it were to do that. But if you buy lengthening cycles and you think that it's the next peak is no earlier than the end of 2022 or something, then you still have potentially plenty of time to accumulate, right? And I mean, at the end of the day, we're still exactly on track, right? Let's go to the BLX, and you see the regression band, right? So we have our regression band on the BLX. Let me just delete some of these lines. So the current fair value, according to this logarithmic regression band, is $9,991. So it's almost $10,000 is where the fair value of Bitcoin currently is. So this is actually impressive because that means that according to our regression fit, for the first time ever, Bitcoin's fair value is about to cross $10,000, meaning the fair value of Bitcoin is above $10,000, which would be interesting if Bitcoin never revisits lower than $10,000 again. Maybe it was just waiting for the fair value of Bitcoin to reach $10,000. We'll see. But, I mean, you can see we're still on track. I mean, the upper part of the band is around 14,700. The lower part of the band is 76 or 67.86, which also corresponds to the 200-week moving average, more or less. You can see that the 200-week moving average will pretty soon be breaking below the regression band. And as we showed before, during the last cycle, when the 200-week moving average broke below the regression band, it broke below it in January of 2016. So about 11 months, or not 11 months, like 9 or 10 months before it will be breaking below it, depending on exactly when it does. And then where did it come back into the regression band? Let's just draw that line. We've drawn it before. But let's just draw a line here. So it came back into the regression band right here. Okay, so let me just come down here and draw it right on top. Let me zoom in. So right, it's hard to do it. Let me do it on the daily time frame. Well, no, let's just do it. So it's basically right here, right? I mean, this is where it crossed it. And where exactly was that? Well, it happened to correspond to the peak, actually. So once Bitcoin, once the 200-week moving average left the regression band, right, it did not come back into it until the very end of 2017, which happened to be the peak, right? More or less, the peak plus or minus a week or so. So, and one question, right, and I've said this every single time that Bitcoin pumps, right? Every single pump. Over here, I got the question. Over here, I got the question. Over here, I got it. Even on this pump, I got it. Here, I got it. Naturally, I'm going to get it here as well. Every single pump, the question becomes, is the four-year cycle theory true, right? This is the natural question that comes to out the forefront of everyone's mind. Everyone wants to know, well, is this theory wrong, right? Is there a chance that Bitcoin sees a new paradigm shift in the price of Bitcoin by the end of 2021, rather than what I think would be another year and a half after that, okay? And it doesn't change, right? No matter which peak it is, it doesn't change my answer, right? There's going to be short-term bubbles. There's going to be short-term bubbles in the price of Bitcoin, and it will not change my answer on the fact that I think that it will peak later than the end of 2021. Now, I think I saw this question in the chat earlier, and I've answered this many times on the channel. One of the questions is, well, what would cause you to change your mind, right? Is there any scenario that you can imagine where you would change your mind and start thinking that the four-year cycle theory could be true? And by the way, when we talk about the four-year cycle theory, there's different four-year cycle theories out there. There's some theories that say that it will peak in 2021. There's other theories that say that, it might peak in 2021, then come back down, and then continue on, right, on its merry way to higher highs, and that 2021 won't be the final peak. A lot of people think it will be the final peak, but it won't be. So there's more than one four-year cycle theory out there. But if you're of the camp that the next, if the four-year cycle means, if by this definition it means a move to 20K by the first quarter of 2021, and then a move to let's say 100K in December of 2021 or January of 2022, and then it's meant to peak there and then come back down, right? If this is what you're saying, and your question is what has to happen for Bitcoin, what has to happen in my mind for there to be a chance that happens? Well, I think the main thing we would need to see would be a sustainable $20,000 Bitcoin in the next few months. Okay, so in about like the next 3 months. So it's October now. It's almost November. Like let's just say it's November. Like in a week and a half, it'll be November. So by the first quarter of the year, I think that Bitcoin would need to be at a sustainable 20K and to start marching on up. And if we see that happen, then yeah, I mean, there's a good chance we'll see a peak at the end of 2021, right? And at the end of the day, if something like that happens, and then it comes back down, and it turns out that that theory was the one that won out in the end, then it doesn't matter because we'll still have recognized it before then, and the risk levels will be going off like crazy at that point. Okay, my contention, as it always has been, and it has not changed at any peak, right? At any peak, it has not changed, is that it will take longer to get to a sustainable 20K, and we still have a ways to go, right? We still have, and if you look at where Bitcoin is, right, we've spent a very long period below $20,000. And despite the recent rally, we're still, 37% below the prior all-time high of 20K. So we still have a significant ways to go to get there. And I do think, right, there's always a chance that Bitcoin gets to 20K before the end of 2021. But if it does, I think it's more likely than not to actually come back down, to get rejected, to come back down, and then continue on up. So that's my thinking. So to answer your question, what would have to happen for me to think that there's a chance that this is true? We would need to get to a sustainable 20K in the first quarter of 2021. If that happens, then I will at least think that there's a chance that something like this were to happen. If it doesn't, and I don't think it will, if it doesn't, then I still think we're on the same path that we've been on, and that once we get here later on, then we'll go parabolic. Okay, so at the end of the day, it's just a delay of like 18 months. It's not a huge delay, but I think it's worth understanding that there are different theories out there, and that there's lengthening cycle theory, there's the Fourier cycle theory, there's some people, believe it or not, will tell me they believe in shortening cycles, right? They think that this cycle will be quicker than the prior cycles because of institutional money or whatever or decentralized finance or something. They'll say it's shortening cycles. I don't think that there's any evidence at all like for shortening cycles. Actually, the only evidence I could find was my wife gave birth to our third kid recently, and her first pregnancy took 39 weeks and 6 days. Her second pregnancy took 38 weeks and 6 days, and then I speculated that the pregnancy cycle was shortening, and that our third kid would be born in less than 38 weeks and 6 days, and I was right. So maybe there are some room for arguments for shortening cycles, but that's just when the data suggests it. So it suggested it for my wife's pregnancy. I don't think it's suggesting it for Bitcoin by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. So I hope that gave you a answer to your question. I do think that we're on the same trend that we've always been on. And remember, back in July of 2019, a lot of people were saying, like there's no way cycles are lengthening because we're already back to 14K. But then you look what happened, right? I mean, it peaked over here at 14K, and we're currently a year and a half later, and we're still less than 14K. So you have to keep it in mind. Short-term bubbles are always a possibility, and this was a short-term bubble, right? We're not in, there's always a possibility to see a short-term bubble in Bitcoin. Okay, so. I hope that answered your question, and I will try to answer more. By the way, if you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. We're at 463 likes. Let's try to get to like 700 likes, which is still only a little over half of the people watching. All right, so I'm going to scroll up on the comments and then just look to see if I missed anything. Rafal says, Ben, do you think we can have alt season now if Bitcoin goes sideways at around 12.5 to 13K, considering really high Bitcoin dominance? I mean, as I said before, if Bitcoin goes sideways, then yes, this will be an altcoin paradise. If it actually goes sideways at this level, I do think there definitely is a strong chance that it doesn't go sideways at 12.7. It can continue the rally or it could go down. So buying altcoins right now is, of course, very risky, right? It is risky. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying there is a risk involved with it. And if it does come down in the short term, then alts will bleed. And if it goes up in the short term, then alts will bleed against Bitcoin for the most part. But if you can stomach, a short-term move and then sideways, or a move to the upside and then sideways, and you don't care, then you can still buy altcoins. Or if it just goes sideways, that would be the best scenario for altcoins in the short term. So remember, altcoins do the best when Bitcoin is bullish and moving sideways. So what are we looking at? Bitcoin is bullish, but it is not moving sideways yet. So until it starts moving sideways, altcoins remain incredibly risky, and there's no guarantee that they will rally at this point, right? They're generally moving up with the market, right? Ethereum's at 394, 395. ADA's at 10.7 cents. Link's at 1094. Or they've sort of moved up over the last day, but if Bitcoin comes back down, then the prices of these altcoins will likely bleed. But again, as I said before, the nice thing is that even if it does come back down by 5 to 10%, if it then moves sideways, then you're still probably looking pretty good at altcoins, because it's well above Bitcoin would still be well above the 20-week moving average. I mean, yeah, again, if you're asking me about alts, I see a lot of people talking about alts. You can always speculate on alts. I would still keep the main focus, not financial advice, but I would personally want to keep my main focus on Bitcoin, not altcoins right now. It's still okay to hold altcoins, and I do hold altcoins. And it's possible that I even recently bought some altcoins if I wanted to chew off that extra level of risk. But again, it doesn't change the fact that Bitcoin should remain the focus as long as we see this type of move. Okay, as long as we see this type of move, Bitcoin should remain the key focus until we get some more direction from Bitcoin. Someone says, is Ethereum one market cycle behind Bitcoin? Yeah, I mean, in terms of its ROI, it does appear to be so. Chris Ward says he just came to troll a Bitcoin channel. Um, so your identification of a troll is to make fun of the people that since March at the very bottom are up 230%. It's an interesting definition of a troll. Um, I think we'll take that one in stride. Yeah, Chris, Ethereum did do a 5x, and we cover Ethereum at length on this channel and even talked about it every step of the way. So I don't know what you mean by this is necessarily just a Bitcoin channel. I mean, we literally have spoken about Ethereum. We look at the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio. I think that the ROI on Ethereum will be higher than Bitcoin this market cycle. So again, I'm not really sure who you're trolling. Maybe you're just trolling yourself at this point. Someone says what coins are on the risk analysis for the premium list? It's just Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, ADA, Monero, XRP, Litecoin, and then I have some subscriber requests for VeChain, Tezos, and Cosmos. But the risk metrics for those are very immature because they haven't been around very long. Someone says, well, one more question. When can we actually say that Bitcoin is going sideways? Is it 1 week? Is it 2 weeks? Well, as we showed before, right? I mean, okay, let's just take an example. Um, I mean, and I showed this earlier, so apologies if you're watching it again. But, you know, when Bitcoin broke through the 20 week on the week of April 27th, Ethereum at the time of starting April 27th was more or less just moving sideways for 4 weeks. Okay, the the ratio of Ethereum against Bitcoin starting on April 27th when Bitcoin broke through the 20-week moving average and was super volatile, the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio at the bottom dropped by 21%. And it took 3 weeks. Okay, and then it started to rally. Okay, so it there's a good chance it could take a while. I mean, of course, in the short term, you're going to have wicks one way or another, right? I mean, it could go to 0.032 tomorrow, or it could go down to 0.029 tomorrow. But over the macro scale, right? If Bitcoin were to hold this level, then even if it continues to dip a little bit, if Bitcoin were to hold this level, I anticipate the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio would start to recover. If it continues to hold it week over week, which is what it did over here. Remember, this is an altcoin paradise. When Bitcoin's bullish and moving sideways, here's another one, and if it starts moving sideways, then that would be another place for altcoins. Yeah, I probably should ban that guy who is Chris. He's claiming he didn't know I spoke about it. I mean, Ethereum. Like, I literally have the tab up here. I've spoken about it, like, at length in the video. I make videos on Ethereum all the time. It just sounds absurd. Er, Hey Ben, do you think Ethereum and Link could put on lower lows if Bitcoin goes to the 21-week moving average now before Arch? Yeah, I mean, if Bitcoin were to drop back down, then I don't know if they go to lower lows. I mean, they would at least drop with respect to Bitcoin most likely. If market cycles are lengthening to the moving averages being considered also need to extend over time. If 200-week held for the last bull market, is the 300-week now for the MA which will hold? Well, we've talked about this before too. I mean, if you look at the long-term moving averages, the 200-week held last market cycle here and here and here and here, so 4 times. And it also held this cycle right here, and here, and it also held here with a wick to the 300 week. And we speculated on this. We had a video back in the end of 2019, I believe, speculating that we could theoretically go to the 20 week or the 300 week, because if you extrapolate, right? I mean, if you look at the 100 week moving average, it doesn't really extend all the way, but you can see that the 100 week moving average was somewhat support during the first cycle. Not quite. We were a few percentage points above it, but that was the 100 week was essentially at the low point of this cycle. The 200 week from the last cycle, and then we said, okay, well, maybe we'll go down to the 300 week. So far, it seems like actually the 200 week held, because this was just a wick. We didn't really spend much time there. So for the time being, I would say that it seems like the 200 week is holding. If Bitcoin were to go to the 300 week moving average, right, which is a big if, but if it were to go to the 300 week, it means the price at the 300 week is 47.68. So it would have a long way to go to drop if it were going to go to the 300 week moving average. Again, the 200 week moving average is 69.39, which essentially corresponds to the bottom of the regression band. Just reading through some of the questions. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you like the content, and give the video a thumbs up. Remember to check out the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com if you want access to the weekly reports, the weekly videos, the premium alerts channel, the chat room, etc. Remember, you can also sign up on patreon.com/intothecryptoverse if you prefer. And then we also do have the Telegram channel for those who want to join the public Telegram channel. All right, someone's asking if I know nonlinear programming. I mean, I have my PhD in engineering. If I didn't know what nonlinear programming was, I would be in trouble. How does the ROI for compared to saving up and buying? So his question is, how does the ROI for dynamic DCA compared to saving up and buying when the 200 week is 300 week is met? You have to, so if you're just entering the market, a lot of times you can make the argument that you could do a lump sum and then dynamically DCA just to get that market exposure. I have a video, by the way, comparing strict DCA to dynamic DCA, and dynamic DCA tends to always win out. The only time that it wouldn't win out would be as if you start doing it like in a bull, like like during a bull run where the price is more or less monotonically going up, right? Then you would not want to dynamically do it. And that's why I say, like, it's better to start it and then just continue it for a few years, because even in that situation, it just takes like one market cycle to catch up. So I would say, if you don't own any Bitcoin, you can do a lump sum and then dynamically DCA, just so you get the risk in case we start just going up and up and up without any serious corrections. I don't have any thoughts on Bitcoin Vault. Someone says, I'd love to see how those log regression bands get reworked if this cycle sees mass adoption and Bitcoin or Ethereum turns into an S curve. I mean, they're not reworked, it's just fit to the non-bubble data. That's all it is. Sorry, I don't have time to help you with linear and nonlinear programming stuff. I'm too busy. Yeah, I do have a lot of videos on alts. These bands are not the regression bands. All this is the 20-week SMA and the 21-week EMA. I normally just go by the 20-week SMA, but enough people are interested in the 21-week EMA, so I just plotted them both on there, and then I just color-coded the region in between them. My exit strategy is all on the premium list is based on the risk levels. Yeah, I did see the PayPal news. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to be living in a cave to not have seen that. Someone says, what's your plan after you exit the market?" Yeah, I mean, just we would talk about diversification into other assets. I mean, I already own other assets and other asset classes. It would just be changing the channel to focus more on these other asset classes rather than crypto. Um, Lonely Algae says I'm a bit rude. Well, I'd welcome you to deal with all the troll comments that I'm getting and not be somewhat irritated by the repetitive comments. And by the way, I mean, you can leave, right? There's no one keeping you here. I do have a cold. I do have a cold. I'm not here. I'm not here to make you guys. I'm not here to make you feel good, or I'm just here to communicate the data and not talk about these other things. So, if that's not what you want, then that's fine. There's plenty of other channels that will sensationalize things a bit more and tell you what you want to hear. Ethnic Albert says, I don't hear any talk about the data. Um, Alright, I'll just hide you, man. I don't have time for trolls. Yeah, yeah, I already hit him. Sorry, I'm just trying to read the comments. I'm just going by really quickly. Someone says, what will happen to aughts when Bitcoin breaks 20K? Um, Well, a lot of them will probably do quite well, right? And we've looked at the charts before, and we've shown that typically speaking, when Bitcoin gets to the prior all time high, altcoins do quite well. I mean, Bitcoin or Ethereum is an example. Back in early 2017, that's when it really started to pump. A lot of coins pumped a lot then too. Litecoin, XRP. Um, a lot of coins did really well when Bitcoin got to the prior all-time high. So there's a good chance that once Bitcoin does get to the prior all-time high, a lot of coins will see a significant move. King J says I get paid for advertisements. I've never done any paid advertisements on the channel. Um, so I don't know what you're talking about. And if you can find one, I'd love to know what video you're talking about because I can assure you I've done none. Yeah, sorry about the computer fan. It's a laptop, and after I've been running it for a while, it just makes the noise. The real snap, I heard you keep saying the same thing. I know my fan is kind of loud, but it's just it's what's going on. All right, if you keep saying it, I'll hide you too. Okay, yeah, everyone's saying the fan's not that loud. All right, I'll just hide him. Bye bye. Yeah, the yearly F by in December, it is. I mean, it could just be a coincidence, right? I mean, it's happened 5 years in a row. There's always a chance that it doesn't happen, right? It could be a coincidence. It's just a trend that we've noticed. As we said in 2019, it doesn't necessarily need to repeat, but then it did repeat in 2020. So it doesn't mean that it has to. It just means that historically speaking, it has. Someone says, have you considered that Bitcoin could just range between 7 to 14,000 for years and not go through another giant peak? It's possible. I don't think it's likely. I mean, it is possible, of course, and that's why I say, it's always good to take advantage of any bubble that forms because we don't know what's going to happen in the long term. Steve, you've been hidden. Steve Bever, so no point in commenting anymore. No one can see it. Um, You guys might say I'm block. One of the reasons why I like the live streams is because it brings the trolls out, so I can quickly hide them and I don't have to see them anymore. Someone says, "Are you ignoring my questions or just missing them?" Probably just missing them. Sorry if I missed it. Just what is your question? I'll look for your name. So just ask it again, and I'll try to see it. Do you ever think cryptos real world use case and how will it change the value? I mean, there are some cryptos that'll have a real world use case, already do. I imagine the value will appreciate. Yeah. How do I put slow mode on? Like I can't even, I can barely keep up with the chat. The Patreon subscription is the same thing as the website. How do you enter premium? You either go to Patreon or my website. So here's my website if you want to join. Yeah, maybe slow mode is set up before live stream starts. I'm not sure. 3 dots. Okay, I'm clicking at. I see participants, pop out chat, and toggle timestamps. I don't see anything else. Billy says, "What are we expecting?" I don't know what you're asking. I mean, what do you mean? What are we expecting? My wife was expecting last week, but she's already given birth. Your question was, why don't you like forked projects? I mean, it's just I don't. If I followed every Bitcoin fork, I wouldn't have any time to do anything else. Like I follow Bitcoin and I follow a few other coins, right? And that's why I follow Ethereum, Link, ADA, Polkadot. It doesn't mean that other coins aren't necessarily valuable or worth investing in. It just means that I think it's better to focus on a few coins and how those coins move with respect to one another rather than focus on like 25 different coins and then just hope one of them does well. So this is my focus. Any predictions on the next Bitcoin all-time high? Probably somewhere around 6 figures, between 100 and 140,000. Yeah, there's a good chance, Alex, that we have a speculative bubble at 20K, come back down, and then move back up. I mean, if you look at the last cycle, um, or if we go to the BLX and look at the last time, Bitcoin, the first time it got to the prior all-time high, it actually came up significantly, up to like almost, well, it went up to like 1180 or so, and then it actually corrected back down pretty significantly. So from the top, it corrected back down like 30%, and then it slowly moved back up by 70% over the next month or so, and then it came back down, and then it finally broke it. So there's a good chance that the first couple times we test 20K, we don't actually break it. Maybe we go slightly above it and then come back down. It'll probably take a while to sustainably to break it and then sustain it. One question is like, okay, well, what is the sustainable 20K? well, one example, of course, as well. I mean, you know, you've kind of seen what a sustainable 10K, right? I mean, if 10K had been the prior all-time high, and we saw something like this, right, where it came down to 10K and then just slowly stayed right above it, and then it expanded back out. This will be, I would consider, a sustainable 10K. So for a sustainable 20K, we would need to see something similar. Andrea says he feels ignored. Sorry, what's your question? It's just hard to, it's really hard to answer all of them because there's so many going on in the chat. What's your opinion about big institutions buying huge amounts of Bitcoin? Yeah, I mean, I think it's bullish for Bitcoin, of course. I think this is great news for Bitcoin. I don't think it changed lengthening cycles, but I think it's great for Bitcoin for sure. The reason why this one is 1,000 too low is because this is the BLX and it only shows the closing price. So if I switch it back over to a different one, you can see the actual real time price, which is currently 12,766. Andrea says, what are the opportunity costs of holding some altcoins from the last cycle and waiting for a pump? Still hold lots of altcoins. Any suggestion how to exit those? It's hard advice to tell you to sell something when you're significantly down, right? Because especially with Bitcoin moving back up to bullish territory, if it starts moving sideways, a lot of these altcoins could theoretically bubble. So, I mean, it's not financial advice, but if I were you and I had a lot of altcoins that were significantly down from where I bought them at, I would probably just wait for a short-term bubble and dynamically DCA sell some of them back into something else. That doesn't mean you need to sell them now because, you know, if Bitcoin holds this level, this could be a bad time to sell them because maybe they start moving some. It also depends on which altcoins you're talking about. Like there's some altcoins that are down, but I think will recover. There's other altcoins that will probably never recover back to their prior highs. What do you think the likelihood of another economic crash? Probably not that high in terms of if you're talking about looking for a 30 to 40% drop in the prices of stocks. I don't think that's going to happen this year again or next year. By the way, if you think that all altcoins will recover, you can go back and look at several altcoins from like the 2013 run that did not reach their prior all-time highs in 2017. There were a lot of them. So there will be a lot in this cycle too that never go back to where they were in 2017 or 2018. They just never will make it there, or some of them won't even come close. Matt says, did you ever make any decisions you came to regret in previous cycles? You know, I'm sure there have been some. Like, I'm sure there have been cases where, like, maybe I got a certain altcoin through, like, an airdrop, or maybe I sold an altcoin and then never took the time to reaccumulate it, and then later wish that I had still kept some of it, right? But at the end of the day, you can't get too bogged down by that because for every altcoin that you maybe sold, and then it went up a lot. There's probably a lot you sold, and then they never recovered. So you just kind of have to take it in stride and move on. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you like the content, and give the video a thumbs up. We're at 681 likes, actually. That's a lot. We've only been, I think I've only reached 1,000 likes like 2 times on a live stream. I would say one thing I regretted about crypto would be I didn't buy it in 2011. I looked at it in 2011. I was taking a cryptography course, but I didn't buy any then. So that would probably be a regret. I do have a day job. I work in computational material science. Would I sell all of my Bitcoin at the 0.9 risk level? Probably. I would sell most of it. Probably would not have finished the PhD had I started doing the crypto YouTube stuff sooner. Do you think inflation will affect stocks in the next couple of years? Honestly, probably not. I mean, I know that's not the cool answer to give, but probably not. On at least if you're buying the whole market, probably not. I don't share the exact percentages of my portfolio. Will we ever see an $8 link again? I have no idea. Do I expect Link to have a move soon if Bitcoin cools off? Maybe. I mean, it depends on, yeah, it depends on if it cools off or not and stays at these levels. If it does, it could. By the way, the risk levels for the 0.5 risk level for Link, as I said on the premium list, like this is where it was back in September, so it was a good buying opportunity. This was on the premium list right down here. Again, it briefly hit the 0.5 risk level here. It's dynamic, remember? And we'll see if it hits the 0.5 risk level again, which by the way, currently it is above the 0.5 risk level. So we'll see what happens, of course. Do I like Tezos? It's okay. I mean, it's not. I don't actually own any, but I have it on. I do talk about it occasionally, just because so many people on the premium list like it. But it's okay. I think it'll do okay in a bull market. Sorry, my wife is trying to get me to go on a walk. So I think I'm going to have to wrap it up there. Um, and yeah, let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment. I hope you guys like the video. Um, Yeah, so if you guys like it, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. We made it to 750 likes. I think we'll call that a win. And we'll move on. If you guys like the content, you can also check out the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. And finally, there's also the Telegram channel, which you could find. I'll post that link as well. Alright guys, that'll wrap it up for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you next time. Bye.